Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1982. Today, we're going to talk about the Atari 5200. The story of the Atari 5200, as you might expect, takes us back to Atari. We of course have been talking about Atari since nearly the beginning of Video Games Over Time. We last talked about Atari in our video on Yar's Revenge. The Atari 5200 is a home console. Atari already had a home console available in the Atari VCS, which was originally released in 1977. However, Atari had always felt that the Atari VCS had a limited lifespan on the market. The Atari 400 and 800 computers were originally designed to replace the Atari VCS in 1979. However, the rise of microcomputers changed the development of the potential console to computers. The Atari 5200 was designed to be in direct competition with Mattel's Intellivision. While in development, the Atari 5200 was originally called the Atari Video System X, Advanced Video Computer System. It was codenamed PAM, named once again after a female employee at Atari. It is rumored that the name PAM also stood for Personal Arcade Machine. Technologically, the Atari 5200 is very similar to the Atari 400 computer. The Atari 5200 uses a MOS Technology 6502C microprocessor, which is very similar to the MOS Technology 6502B microprocessor that the Atari 400 uses. The Atari 5200 also uses the Antic and GTIA graphics chips and comes with 16 kilobytes of RAM, just like the Atari 400 computer. Although there are differences between the 5200 and the 400, they are minor compared to their similarities. The Atari 5200 was large, designed with an open compartment to hold the controllers in the back. The controllers were redesigned, coming with an analog joystick, a numeric keypad, 2 fire buttons on either side of the controller, and 3 function buttons. The Atari 5200 had ports for 4 controllers, instead of the 2 ports that were standard in other consoles. There is also a second kind of controller, known as the Pro-Line Trackball controller. This controller used a trackball, which would replicate arcade titles such as Centipede and Missile Command. The Atari 5200 was released in 1982. Upon its release, the Atari VCS was renamed the Atari 2600. This new name would stick and would become the name most associated with the console. We will refer to the Atari VCS as the Atari 2600 from now on. When the Atari 5200 was released, it came with Super Breakout packaged with the console. We have talked about Super Breakout before. It was originally released to arcades in 1978. However, Super Breakout had already been ported to the home market. It was released for the Atari 400 and 800 in 1979, and the Atari 2600 in 1981. This fourth version of a 4-year-old game was not seen as a great selling point for Atari's new console. It did not show the new system's increased capabilities over previous systems. On top of that, the Atari 5200 did not have the capability to play Atari 2600 games. For all customers that owned an Atari 2600 and a library of games, the Atari 5200 presented a brand new experience that required its own investment in time. The Atari 5200 was not popular when it was released. The Atari 5200 was said to have better graphics than the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision, but it did not have the games to justify a new investment from fans of Atari. By the end of 1982, the Atari 5200's library consisted of only 10 games. Most of these games were ports of existing arcade titles, and most were already available in a home version. We will talk about many of these games in our honorable mentions video at the end of the year. The Atari 5200's controller received the most criticism. While games would often ship with an overlay that would fit onto the controller to show how the controller should be used for that specific game, which was seen as a nice touch, the joystick was seen as almost unusable. The issue came with the mechanics of the joystick. Inside the controller, a small piece of rubber was used to recenter the joystick, instead of the standard springs used at the time. This small piece of rubber wore down quickly. As time went on, the joysticks would start failing to center properly. Because the joystick is the primary control in most games, this made several games unplayable, as the joystick would be stuck in certain and unexpected directions. Atari found themselves in a strange position with the Atari 5200. For the first time that we have talked about, Atari found themselves with a high-profile failure. While not all of Atari's video games and systems have been truly successful, the time, money, and energy spent to create, market, and distribute the Atari 5200 was seemingly wasted by the company because of the 5200's failures. While this was quite the embarrassment for Atari, we will continue to hear from the company in the future. After all, they still have the successful Atari 2600 and several successful arcade games on the market. We will, of course, continue to track the story of Atari as we continue. That will do it for the story of the Atari 5200 for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we look at a different kind of sequel.